Do you want to check out IT Pro TV but aren't ready to commit? We're making a few episodes from our most popular courses free for you to try here on YouTube so you can see what they're all about. Enjoy this episode and head over to ITPro.tv when you're ready to see the full course.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode here at ITProTV. I'm your host, Aubrey Spurgeon, and this is Windows 10. We are preparing for that MD-100 exam, and in this episode, we are going to configure language packs. And the fellow who's going to bring us all the information we need to know is Senor Mike Roderick.
Hola, Aubrey. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing fine. Thanks for having me. Excited as always to be here. And yeah, we're going to just kind of work our way down through this list of objectives as we're preparing for that MD-100. And one of the first ones in the list is installing language packs or configuring language packs, as they like to say. So
right.
That's a good place to start, right?
Cool.
And a pretty straightforward one. You know, when we think about language packs, obviously when we install Windows, we have to pick at least one language, right? So that we can use our operating system. Usually the ISO that you're using is localized to you. Like here, you know, my ENUS is going to be installed automatically for me. I can detect that if I have internet access. It can detect my region. If I have a multi-language ISO, again, it can try to detect what language, or it'll ask me to pick, and you pick one. But after the fact, you might want to install additional languages. Could be that you need to add additional languages to your image to support multinational offices, or maybe your user or users work in multiple languages, so they need to be able to switch back and forth. Whatever the case may be, we need to be able to add more than that one that came with our Windows install. And that's the goal today is, you know, how do we do that? And let's start with just some basic info that they might get you with on the exam, and then we'll take a look at how we can actually accomplish this. You know, we can add language and regional support to Windows 10 and Windows Server, except for Windows Home, Home Single Language, and Home Country Specific, which makes sense, right? If you have, and we probably won't be dealing with that in our enterprise environment. We're not going to have the home version of the operating system. But maybe you're supporting end users, maybe your job deals with selling PCs or supporting home users or something like that. Understand that if you have a home single language, you can't add additional languages, which is kind of why they call it single language, right?
Right.
So
Makes sense.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, you know, you want to point it out, but once you hear it, you're like, oh, duh, that makes sense. Yeah. Also, home country specific. You wouldn't be able to add additional language packs to because, again, it's country specific. It's not meant to go anywhere else, be used anywhere else. But doubtful that I've never seen those editions, any home single language or home country specific, but they're out there. And if you're dealing with one, understand that you can't add a language pack.
You know, some countries deal with more than one language.
They do.
So how does that work out?
That means you would not want to use that ISO to install Windows. Yeah,
All
you'd
right.
want to buy a multi-language version of Windows or something else.
Okay.
Yep, for sure. All right, so we can't add it except for those two. Again, they have at least one language pack, and there's language components. Now, when we go to add our language packs, we can actually do what they call localization packages for Windows. And they used to be, and I say used to be because it is changing as we move through our newer versions of Windows 10. They used to be .cab files, .cab, or short for cabinet file, which is very similar to a compressed file, like a WinZip file or something like that. It's a hierarchy of files in there. And it'll include, you know, the UI elements, my user elements. That means the dialogue for text boxes, like when you see a message that says, do you want to continue? Yes or no? Well, I need that to be in a particular language, and I need the yes and no to be in the right language. So text for dialog boxes, menu items, help files would also be updated, assuming we get the appropriate language pack. And let's go out to my screen here. I've got the Microsoft page pulled up. You guys can go docs.microsoft.com. I'll throw this in the show notes for you because I did want to point out a couple of things as again, Windows 10 changing so fast, and that's what our exam is on. So we do need to be familiar with this. But when we look at language packs, they can still be cab files. Even with Windows 10, we can still get these from multi-language pack ISO from Microsoft, delivered as a cab file. For example, they give you the example here of Microsoft Windows Client Language Pack, ESES. So that'd be Spanish from Spain, I believe, .cab. There's also these, and let me zoom in if you can see that a little bit. I know that's a little small there. There are language interface packs, or LIPs, as they like to call them. These are partially localized language packs, and they require a base language. For the exam, that's really what I want you to understand, is that a LIP is a language interface pack, and it's partially localized, meaning I think the example they use here is French. So they've got this AMET, and let's see if I can figure out what that one is. It would need a base language, so it might be a regional version of French. I think one of the examples they use in this documentation is Luxembourgish. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it requires that you already have the French language pack installed because it's not an entire language pack. It's just a few regional dialect type things, all right? We also have features on demand, which gives me the ability to not install all the components in the beginning, save a little space maybe on my image, and then if the user needs them, they can install them. And we also have to worry about recovery languages, possibly, right? You might want to update the user interface for the WinPE environment. And not all language packs contain all these components. You might find some that just do the Windows dialog boxes and the help for or handwriting, but they don't have text-to-speech support and things like that. Others are fully fleshed out, and they have all the different components. So you do have to pay attention to that. Like, do I need optical character recognition? Right? Some of the language packs, especially some of the regionalized versions, don't include that. Right? The base language pack might, but the regional might not. So you do have to pay attention to that. Now, where we get these language packs can also be a challenge if you're trying to study. As you're practicing or testing this out, it was difficult for me, I know. You have to either go out to Microsoft's OEM site or Device Partner Center. So you need a volume license, or you need to be an OEM that has access to this. If you're an IT professional, you can go out to your volume licensing site. If you're a builder or an OEM, you can go to the Device Partner or Microsoft's OEM site and get them from there. And either one of those locations will allow you to download the appropriate, either the pack itself or maybe an ISO that contains multiple packs in it. The other thing that you have to pay attention to, and I'll tell you, this is probably one of the most frustrating parts about supporting Windows 10 currently, is the versioning and how fast they're changing. The language pack has to match the ISO or the version of Windows that you have installed. So if you have the language pack from 1709, but you're rolling out 1809 or 1803, it's not going to work. All right, it will detect a version mismatch, and you're going to have to go and get the appropriate one. So keep that in mind. You really have to pay attention to the build numbers and make sure that those packs match or those versions match. Right? All right, let's see. I believe that's probably enough. Again, I'll throw the link to this particular webpage in there so that you can go and do a little bit of research, understanding just the basics of how languages are handled in Windows, and then knowing how to add them is really the key for this exam. And when we go to add our language packs, we have to decide, are we adding it into an online image or an offline image, right? If I've got, maybe Aubrey comes to me and says, hey, I'm going to be doing some work with our customers out in France, and I need French on my computer. Right? I could add French to your computer. Right? That'd be an online way of just adding it to an existing install. Or if we're opening up an office in France and I need to deploy 10 new laptops that all have English and French installed on them, then I can do it. I can inject the language pack into our image. Right? I can use a default WIM file, or I can create my own WIM file. And there's other ways you can get into System Center and things like that and handle this as well. But again, for this particular exam, it's really just looking at it from that client perspective.
That actually reminds me of when I use my Google Translate app. When I'm here in America and I'm just kind of looking up a word, I will have it online. But if I go to the country, I like to download it in case I don't have Wi-Fi or data. And now I have this plethora of words in French, let's say, and it's really fun and great. It reminded me of that. So
very good, very good. Yeah, very similar in concept.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, so what do you say we actually install some language packs?
That would be amazing.
All right,
Yeah.
let's do it. Let's see. I think we already got my screen pulled up here. I'm going to jump over to a Windows 10 virtual machine, and what we're going to do, if you're going to add this, we're going to do the offline first, which means we're going to use tool like DISM, which is what I'm going to use. There are other ways you could go about this to mount up a WIM file, right? What we use to install our Windows image file, and we're going to inject our language packs into that offline image. Then when we deploy the image, the language is already there. They log in for the first time. They can go in their settings and language, and they can choose to pick the appropriate language. All right, so for that, there's a couple things we're going to do. I have got us ahead of the game a little bit. On my D drive of this Windows 10 machine, I have the Windows 10 install.wim already copied from the DVD over to my local hard drive, right? And I'm going to fire up PowerShell as an administrator, if it'll let me. There we go. We'll say yes to the good old UAC. And what I want to do is I want to mount that WIM file. So that's going to be dism /mount dash image space / image file. I have trouble typing and talking at the same time. Colon. And then I'm going to cheat. I'll show you a little trick that I like to do. I love to use Windows and tab autofill, especially for Windows paths. So I'm going to hit a space and then D:// and where did I put the WIM file? I put it in a folder called WIM /win10 eval, and then it's called install.wim. But once I've finished with that path and taken advantage of the tab autofill, I need to get rid of that space. So see how I did that? Again, just a little cheat. You might or might not find that useful. /index:1, because remember, within a WIM file, you can have multiple images, right? I want to tell it which image I want to mount up that I'm working with. In my case, that's index number 1, /mountdir or mount directory : D:// mount, and I'll hit enter. And then we'll give this a minute. It's going to mount up the ISO. When we come back, we'll continue on. All right, that only took a couple of minutes, and the image has mounted up. So let's take a look at my screen here. We can see the operation completed successfully. So now we've mounted up that WIM file so that we can manipulate it and work with it. The next thing I want to do is just run a little command to verify what packages currently exist in that WIM, so we can prove that this is working. And for that, it's just dism /image : and then where did you mount the image? Well, remember, we used D:/mount. That's our virtual directory or my pointer to that mounted image. So D:/mount, and then space / get dash, oops, if I can spell that, packages, and we'll hit enter. And what it's going to do is it's going to rifle through that image that's mounted up, and it'll list all of the packages. These are additional things that are installed in this particular version of Windows. And you'll see a lot of interesting things like Windows Security, SSP, and let me zoom in for you a little bit here. Pre-release client package, what else? Here's some language features, but you can see these are ENUS, right? Because this is localized to me. This is the ISO I'd use here. What else? ENUS, language features. There's my handwriting. Notice that is also ENUS. And I think there's my client language pack, and that is ENUS.
Make it a little bit bigger? Also?
I can. I'll zoom in just a little bit there. So there is my language pack. I can also see things like there's my language feature handwriting, language feature basic, so they'll do some of that OCR, the character recognition. And remember what I was talking about versions. You look at this number right here. That is what needs to match when you talk about your installed version of Windows or the WIM you're working with and the language pack that you're getting. So I need to find a package that's 10.0.10586. And I can tell you, when I was setting up for this, that version is actually like one of the second or third releases of Windows 10 from 2015. So finding the right language pack and ISO for that was challenging, to say the least. All right, but we've got it. So again, that was just a look to see what packages are currently installed. Notice there weren't any. What did you say we wanted to do? What language do you want to install?
We're doing Spanish, right?
Spanish. Okay, we can do Spanish. All right, so I've downloaded the ISO from Microsoft, right, on our volume license site. And you can see the title up here. It's hard to read it. LP, LIP, MULFRE, LP, LIP. Yeah, what? It's just their language packs and LIPs, right? LIPs, multi-user language, I think is what that stands for. But anyway, that's not important. Inside x64, there's a folder called language packs. And inside there are all of my different language packs, right? And I think we'll just install them all. We don't want to make the image any bigger than necessary. So that's why we have these as separate files and are not installed by default.
How do you know which is which? You just have to kind of figure it out, or
You
does
have to
it
figure
say
it
it
out.
inside? Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
You have to kind of figure
For
it
the
out.
most part, it's easy, but some of them I have no idea.
Yes, from here. Now, if you go, and I'm going to show you to do it on an online version, it's a little bit easier to figure out what is what. But if you're using the ISO, yeah, you just have to know.
Okay.
All right. I'm sure there's a list of them somewhere. If we fired up Bing, we could probably find that. All right. But now that we've got that ISO mounted up, our next command is going to be to take one of those language packs and inject it into our image. For that, again, we'll use DISM. Let me clear my screen so I can get back to the top of the window there. And we're going to type in DISM space / image : and I got to tell it, what image am I working with? I might have more than one image mounted up. So just D : / mount. Oops, and I can't type evidently. My hand was not on the home row there. D : / mount / add - package / package path, and then the location. Now you could have copied those files off the ISO to a local folder. I could on the machine I'm working with. I could have put them up in a network share. I just mounted up the ISO and I'm going to do it from there. So package path : I'm sorry, it's not a colon. This one is actually an equals, and then I'm going to again sheet E : / what is that? It's in the folder called X64. And it's not going to let me do my tab autofill anyway. So E : / X64 / langpacks / you said Spanish. We're going to go ES space or /LP.cab. And I'll end my quote. And I'll hit, make sure that is in the right path. I want to verify that I've typed in that path correctly. So there's my ESES. There's the LP inside there. We look at that path. E : / X64, langpacks, EHCS, and then LP.exe. So we should be good to go.
All right.
I'll hit enter. And this will take it a minute because it's going to inject that into our image. You can see the progress bar is started. And if you get to this point, you're pretty sure you did it correctly as long as you picked the right package. If it was going to fail because of version numbers or anything like that, we would have seen that already. So we'll let this run, and when it finishes, we will come back and see what we've got. All right, so that took maybe 5 minutes on my machine. It'll depend on your hardware. It has finished, so let's jump back on my screen and see what we've got. Really not going to see much. I can see that the operation completed successfully, and how I would verify if I wasn't sure or if I wanted to just prove to myself, we could do another. In fact, I'll just use my up arrow here. I'll run that same command, DISM image : and then the path to the mounted image, and then / get packages. We'll hit enter. Let that run for a minute. See if I can maximize that. There we go. And what we should see, and I'll zoom in here in just a second as soon as I find a couple. If I scroll back up through this list, here I can see yes. Right? So there's my language pack. If I go down a little bit further, let's see if we can see any additional ones. Some of these might have rolled. Sorry, it's really hard to move around when I'm zoomed in. So let me zoom out, and I can zoom back in for you in just a second. AMD, I don't see any. Oh, there's another one. There's ESES, and that's my pre-release client package. And it looks like that's about all I got for that one. But again, we can see that those packages were indeed added to that image. And now when I deploy that image, it'll already be there. So if somebody wants to switch to that particular language, they can go into their settings and they can pick from a drop-down list. It should show up. All right. Now, in order to finish this process, if this was real world and I wanted to use this WIM, I would need to unmount and commit the changes to that WIM file. Remember, when you mount a WIM file, you've got it loaded up and you're making changes to it. You can always quit and discard all your changes. Or you can choose to commit and actually write those changes back into the WIM file as it packages it back up and closes it and writes it back to disk. So it's an easy step to forget, and you can lose all your changes. We're not going to wait for it to finish. I don't want to actually sit here and wait for it. But what you would do is it would just be DISM / and you can do the commit as a separate command, or you can do it when you unmount the image. If you want to do it as a separate command, DISM / commit dash image forward slash mount directory colon d colon backslash mount. All right. So if we zoom in there, you can see basically dism, commit image, and then the path to the directory where we have mounted up that particular image. We'll zoom back out. If I wanted to commit the change, and now that would commit it, but it wouldn't unmount the image, right? I could still go back and make additional changes to it or whatever I needed to do. If I knew I was done, I could also commit the changes and unmount it at the same time. That particular command is going to be something like dism forward slash unmount dash image space forward slash mounter colon d colon backslash mount.
Looks
Right.
like it says counter
What's
instead
that?
of mount.
Oh, I did, didn't I? Oops. Thank you. Right. So almost the same command. Here we're just specifying unmount image instead of commit image, and we would add a forward slash commit to commit those changes and unmount at the same time. Or what do you think that would do?
Get rid of it.
It would
Just
get
go.
rid of my changes, right? It would throw all the changes away. Maybe I added the wrong language. It's like, oh, shucks, that was the wrong one. I can go ahead and uncommit or discard and unmount. All right. Now, I'm not going to, just because we want to finish up this demonstration. Do keep in mind, though, I will have to go back and unmount that image. Otherwise, it remains mounted up. So don't forget to unmount the image when you're done. Either discard or commit your changes. One other command I do want to show you why we're in here is what if I wanted to use dism for an online image, right? I can do dism forward slash online space forward slash add dash package forward slash package path colon, and then in my case it's on the DVD still, so e colon backslash x64 backslash langpack backslash es dash es dot lp or something like that. And this switch here online says, hey, this isn't a mounted WIM file. This is the current running machine that I want to inject the package to. So with an online image, when you're sitting at the particular laptop, you can use dism to do it this way, or you can go into your settings and you can add them that way. If you had already downloaded or had access to the Language Pack ISO, this might be the easiest way to do it. All right. But I'm not going to do that either. We are going to close PowerShell. And the other way you do it on an online image is just use your settings. On Windows 10, I can go to my settings from my start menu. And then we can go into time and language. And then language over there on the left-hand side. And we'll maximize that for a second. And here, I can see what my current Windows display language is. If I hit this drop-down list, you'll notice I have nothing available in that drop-down list. Because remember, by default, Windows just installs the one language pack. All right. There's add a Windows display language with local experience packs. Below that, I have add languages. And here I can see the current language. And then there's all these little icons, right? And these are important because as you're browsing through the different language packs, depending on what you want, might help you determine which pack to get. Some of them don't include all of the components, right? This one, the first one there is the display language, the interface, things like that. The second one is text to speech. Does that particular language pack support text to speech? Does it support speech recognition, handwriting, as well as typing, right? So I'm going to zoom back out. This would take you to a little article about how to add language packs. We're just going to click add a language. Now you do need to have internet access. This is going to reach out to Windows Update and pull the files from there, right? Remember I was saying though, as an IT professional, if we want to do this to the image, we need that language ISO. You could do it with a reference image as well. You could give it online internet access and download the language pack that way in a reference image. What did you want to do for this one, Aubrey?
Russian.
All right, let's see if we can find some Russian in here. We'll try the search. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Here I can see Russian,
Ruski.
right? And if I zoom in a little bit, you'll see that this is one of those languages that doesn't have all of the features, right? I don't see, what was that one? The dictation,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
The speech recognition. I do see text to speech, handwriting, and display language, right? Some of these other ones you notice don't have, I don't know what you're going to get with that because it doesn't look like much, right? We're going to select this one though. I'm going to zoom back out so we can see, and I will click, there's a nice little chart down here to tell you what the different ones are. I'll click next. And then because this one included multiple components, I might not want all of them, right? You know, handwriting and speech recognition, those take up a little bit of space when we install them, and maybe I don't need those features. I just want the basic typing, or I just want the language itself so that I can see Windows in Russian, and I don't need speech, and I don't need handwriting, right? I can save a little space. Now, granted, nowadays, 12 megabytes doesn't seem like much, right?
No.
Not with today's hard drives, but I do want to point that out. You can pick and choose the different components that you want. All right, we'll go ahead and choose install, and we'll let that reach out, and it's going to again pull from Windows updates. We'll let this go for a minute, and when we come back, we'll take a look at our results. All right, so that didn't take too terribly long. Let's take a look at what we have now. And what I wanted to show you before I do this was, will be displayed, let me zoom in for you, will be display language after next sign in. So you can see my drop-down list has changed to Russian. Right now I have 2 languages in my drop-down list, if you can see that there.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I'm going to go ahead and sign out. And I'm going to have to close my VM connection because I've had a couple of issues with the resizing and the scaling. So once I get logged out, I'll log back in, get that go full screen again. Log in as my user account. Oops. And let's see what we've got. Hopefully, well, I don't know. I won't be able to read anything, but we should see that it is Russian. Pretty obvious, right? In fact, I can just look at my desktop here. If I could zoom in. Oh, Zoom it not playing along. Zoom it has locked up on me. I get some. I don't know if you can see this down in the bottom corner. Thank you, Titus.
Ooh.
If I can get, there goes Zoom it. It's starting to work now. Right there, you can see that even the warning about this not being active. Can you read that?
I can.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means, but ознакомительная версия Windows 10 Coropad. Okay.
Wow.
You know, other stuff, I could read it, but I felt the pressure. So.
Okay. Well, that was pretty impressive to me, actually. But yeah, we can definitely see that, you know, Russian is now my display language. That's the little warning that you get telling me that I need to license my copy of Windows. I've got like 83 days left. If I go down here to my actions pane, you'll see the system is definitely switched over to Russian, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I zoom back out and I open up, I don't know, Windows Explorer, for example. There we go. We see more Russian.
Yeah.
There. All right. So the moral of the story is we can add additional languages to Windows. We can change the display languages. Just depends on how we want to go about it. If we're doing an offline image, we're going to go and get those language packs as an OEM or a system builder. I can get those from Microsoft as an IT Pro. I'll get it from my Volume Licensing Center. Or if I'm just an end user, I can simply open up in my online image. I can go into my settings and I can go to language and I can pick a language and it'll reach out to Windows Update and pull that language down and allow me to use additional languages. So there you go, working with language packs in Windows 10.
All right, this has been Configure Language Packs in Windows 10. So thank you so much, Mike, for guiding us through that. Very neat stuff. I love learning how to mix and match the languages on my computer or on my phone. So thank you all out there for watching. Adios and das vidanya from ITProTV. I have been your host, Aubrey Spurgeon.
And I'm Mike Roderick.
And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching ITProTV.